Most people take zinc and magnesium before bed, expecting to sleep better. But that's not usually the first thing that changes. After about a week, something quieter happens. The nervous system starts behaving differently. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in a way that reveals something most people never understood about these two minerals in the first place. Because zinc and magnesium don't work like sleep aids, they work like corrections. And understanding what the body is actually correcting, and why it took deficiency so long to show up, changes how people think about recovery entirely. So why are zinc and magnesium almost always paired together for sleep? Because both minerals are involved in systems the body runs every single night, whether sleep is good or not. Magnesium regulates GABA activity, one of the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter systems. It also helps control nerve excitability and muscle relaxation. Without enough of it, the nervous system stays slightly more activated than it should be at rest. Zinc works through a different pathway. It plays a role in immune repair, hormone signaling, and neurotransmitter function. It's also connected to melatonin production, the hormone that tells the brain it's time to sleep. Here's the part that matters. Both minerals are commonly depleted in modern lifestyles. Chronic stress increases cortisol, and elevated cortisol accelerates magnesium excretion through the kidneys. Poor sleep compounds the problem. High caffeine intake, alcohol, processed food, and intense exercise all reduce mineral availability further. The depletion doesn't happen overnight. It accumulates gradually, across weeks and months, until the nervous system is quietly running below what it needs. This is the counterintuitive part. For many people, taking zinc and magnesium before bed doesn't add something new. It removes a bottleneck the body had already been working around silently for a long time. So what changes during those first several nights, and why does it feel different from a sleeping pill? For people with depleted levels or chronically elevated stress, one of the earliest and most noticeable changes is nervous system tone. Magnesium helps regulate calcium signaling inside nerve cells. When magnesium is insufficient, calcium signals can become overactive, creating a state of low-level neural excitability. Nerves fire more easily, muscles hold more tension, the brain resists slowing down. As magnesium levels improve, that excitability begins to normalize. This is why people often describe the early change not as sedation, but as a sense of being slightly less wired. Fewer racing thoughts before sleep, less body tension at night, sleep that feels less interrupted. The key distinction is important. The supplements aren't inducing sleep. They're restoring the conditions the body already needs to do it naturally. When those conditions were previously compromised, even a small correction feels surprisingly significant. But this is where it gets counterintuitive. Some people report noticing something unexpected after a few nights. Their dreams become more vivid, more detailed, easier to remember. So what's actually happening? The answer isn't that sleep is becoming stranger. It's that sleep is becoming more continuous. Most people dream multiple times every night, but fragmented sleep, frequent micro-awakenings, irregular stage transitions, poor REM consolidation means most of those dreams never reach conscious memory. When sleep quality improves, REM periods become longer and more consolidated. Transitions between sleep stages happen more smoothly. Awakenings become less frequent, and when they do occur, they're more likely to happen near the end of a REM cycle, which is exactly when dream recall is highest. Magnesium's role in nervous system regulation may also support healthier cortisol rhythms overnight, which reduces the kind of stress-related sleep disruption that keeps people in lighter stages. The dreams aren't increasing, the awareness of them is. More vivid dream recall is often one of the earliest measurable signs that sleep architecture is becoming more organized. So if zinc and magnesium are this important, why do many people take them for a week and feel completely unchanged? Because the effect size is directly tied to the deficiency gap. If someone already has adequate levels of both minerals through diet, low stress, and consistent sleep, the body doesn't have a bottleneck to remove. The nervous system already has what it needs. Sleep architecture may already be relatively efficient. Adding more doesn't produce a noticeable sensation when the system is already functioning near baseline. This is where supplement culture creates one of its most persistent misconceptions. The body doesn't reward every additional input with a dramatic response. More is not always better. Correction is only meaningful when something was deficient in the first place. The people who notice the most from zinc and magnesium are often the ones who needed them most and were the least aware that they did. And this is where the science becomes relevant to most people living a modern lifestyle. There's a feedback loop that most people don't realize they're caught in. Chronic stress elevates cortisol. Elevated cortisol increases magnesium excretion. Lower magnesium makes the nervous system more excitable. A more excitable nervous system makes sleep lighter. Lighter sleep keeps cortisol elevated longer overnight. The loop sustains itself. Over time, the nervous system becomes normalized in a state of low-level activation. Harder to relax, harder to drop into deep sleep, harder to fully recover between days. Magnesium doesn't break the loop by force. It doesn't suppress cortisol directly or sedate the nervous system, but it does support the regulatory mechanisms that help the body move out of activation, which is the first step the loop requires to begin unwinding. What many people experience after a week isn't increased energy. It's reduced friction, a nervous system that isn't working quite as hard just to maintain baseline. But sleep is about more than how someone feels the next morning. During sleep, the body runs processes it can't fully prioritize while awake. Immune regulation, tissue repair, hormone rebalancing, memory consolidation, and metabolic waste clearance in the brain. Magnesium participates in over 300 enzymatic reactions, many of them involved in energy production, cellular stability, and protein synthesis. Zinc is directly required for immune function, wound repair, and the production of growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep. When sleep is fragmented or shallow, these systems don't stop. They just become less efficient. Inflammatory markers rise. Recovery from physical and mental stress takes longer. The immune system operates below optimal capacity. Improving sleep depth, even modestly, creates a downstream effect across nearly every recovery system in the body. The body doesn't repair itself because minerals are magic. It repairs itself because sleep is when repair was always supposed to happen, and better sleep simply allows that process to run more completely. So what's the honest truth about what happens after 7 days of taking zinc and magnesium before bed? For some people, almost nothing noticeable. For others, something subtle but real. Slightly less tension before sleep, slightly deeper rest through the night, slightly easier recovery, a nervous system that isn't pushing against itself as hard. But here's what all of those experiences have in common. None of them are dramatic. None of them feel like a drug effect. None of them show up on a highlight reel. That's because what's changing isn't the addition of something new. It's the removal of a quiet deficit that had been compounding possibly for months, underneath a surface that felt normal because adaptation had made it feel that way. 7 days isn't a transformation window. It's the beginning of a regulatory correction. The real change after a week isn't that the body became stronger. It's that certain systems finally stop struggling as hard to hold baseline. The deeper insight here has nothing to do with zinc or magnesium specifically. It's about how quietly the body adapts to dysfunction and how completely that adaptation can mask real problems. Nutrient depletion, chronic stress, and sleep degradation don't announce themselves dramatically. They accumulate in the background while the nervous system builds compensations around them. People normalize waking up tired, normalize mental overactivation at night, normalize tension that never fully releases. Because the shift happens slowly, the deficit starts feeling like the baseline. This is why recovery from these states often feels subtle even when it's biologically significant. Slightly calmer evenings, slightly deeper sleep, slightly faster recovery, slightly less internal noise. Those aren't small changes. They're early signs that the body's repair systems are finally functioning with less interference. The body rarely requires perfection before it begins improving. It usually just requires enough stability to stop compensating so hard. Taking zinc and magnesium before bed for 7 days doesn't produce a dramatic transformation. What it can do is restore something more fundamental, the conditions the body already requires to regulate sleep, manage stress, support, repair, and maintain nervous system stability. For people running quietly, depleted through stress, poor sleep, modern diet, or chronic overstimulation, those systems can begin functioning more efficiently, faster than expected, not because the supplements are forcing anything, but because the body finally has more of what it needed and less of what it was quietly working around. And sometimes, the first sign of real recovery isn't feeling superhuman. It's simply feeling slightly more like yourself again. The body usually doesn't need something new added to it. It needs what was quietly missing restored.